do it a little bit faster than that. Like almost as soon as I see it, okay? All right, hold on. Feeling a bit lost and confused? Well, according to a poll that I definitely recently took, roughly 90% of my viewers are also very confused on a regular basis. So a little fact about me is that I love the Alien franchise. Not a huge horror buff in general, I tend to shy away from most things that are grisly and disturbing. However, like that one 90s movie says, there's just something about Xenos. So this past month for my birthday, I went and watched the newest addition to the franchise, Alien Romulus, and it was absolutely disgusting, but I loved it. I think I gave it like an 8 out of 10. My favorite character was Andy. I think he's adorable and I would probably die for him, but that inspired me to make a costume. I am going to cosplay Carradine, who is the newest face of the franchise and probably the main character for the next few movies, if I had to guess. Her outfit is pretty simple. However, I'm not going to just dress as her. I'm going to create a face hugger as well. My goal with this costume is to do my very best to either utilize items that I already have or thrift things. Basically, I want this to be a very low budget costume, and I also want to challenge myself to see what I can do with materials that I don't go out and buy. I already have a little sketch that I did. My thoughts on that are that I will use this wind chime that was left behind when we bought this house. It is cute, but it's not really my style and I don't have any other use for it, so I'm gonna destroy it, obviously. I'm going to try to salvage as many of the pieces as I can, but my idea is that this can be sort of flipped and I can use this wire base as the structure for my face hugger. This kind of looks like the lung sacs, and then the fingers can obviously come out here, but this is like very sturdy and I think it will make a very good base. I have some pipe cleaners. I want to at least be able to pose the fingers and the tail. They're very flimsy, obviously, so I might twist a couple together, but the idea is that they essentially add a little bit of structure while remaining very flexible. So Rain's costume doesn't really have that many components to it. Essentially, she has a Weyland Yutani shirt, some very baggy dark wash jeans, a very specific pair of Reebok Alien Stompers, and a little watch, and then a little arm wrap. I think I'm gonna get started on the face hugger first, and we'll go from there. In the words of our patron saint of destruction, Ralph, I'm gonna wreck it. Hey, so guess who's a dip and didn't realize that you can literally screw this off. You see that happy smiling girl right there? Yeah, she's really naive. Unfortunately, this is about as far as I got into this project before things took a rather disastrous turn. And because I don't really like wasting your time watching or my time editing, what I'm going to do is give you a quick recap of all of the things that went wrong, and then I'll fast forward to the moment where things started going a little bit smoother. Up to this point, some of the things I had done are to bend the wireframe a little bit, add some pipe cleaners for the fingers and tail, and then add a little bit of volume by using some of that trash that I said I was going to use. I then started snipping and shaping this excess foam from some old packaging to form the tail and spine of my facehugger. This was a very tedious and back pain inducing process that ultimately ended up not working out. Nevertheless, I did of course persist because I am freaking stubborn. To be completely honest, I feel like there was a lot of foreshadowing that this wasn't going to work how I wanted it to. I kept running into little issues that I would have to use my very non-engineering brain to figure out, as is evidenced in this next clip. I was not crazy about the shape of the lung sacs. And I thought, well, let me just snip off part of it and sort of reshape it from there. Well, unfortunately, a normal set of wire cutters that I have anyways was not quite thick enough to get through this wire, and so I was like, well, let me use this multi-tool, okay? A little fact about me, I am not a power tool girly. As cool as I feel using them, I am also absolutely terrified of them. My heart is racing right now, my stomach hurts, but I did it. I cut through this. And I did not film myself, I'm sorry. I did not feel like recording my death on camera for my family to be traumatized by, but I did not die, nor did I maim myself, which is always a plus. Therefore, onwards and upwards. So this lovely, sweet summer child spent her days sipping matcha, happily gluing, taping, and cutting this thing into creation. But the real turning point was the bloody, accursed paper mache. In theory, this would help me relive the nostalgic days of my youth, sitting in kindergarten and making fun little sculptures. But unfortunately, it awakened a rage in me that I didn't even know existed. Though I guess I do owe it a thanks for the wake-up call that let me know it was time to change tactics. Hello, and welcome to your Sunday update with me, Le Fou. So things are not going according to plan. Last night, I started working on laying down a layer of paper mache over the base of my facehugger. And I thought that if I kept the layer relatively thin, meaning literally only one layer, that things would be maybe not necessarily super flexible, but still bendable or movable, and I was completely wrong. So that may have been the case whenever I tried using Mod Podge and water, but at some point I switched to doing a mixture of cooked flour and water, which apparently is what they use when they make cement sidewalks, because I can no longer move the appendages. And I've already cracked a few attempting to. So not only that, the flour dried and created boogers all over it. Luckily, I was able to rip it off of the tail before it dried, but it looks really gross. It's shedding everywhere, and it was a little too late for the fingers. It's rock hard. I really don't know what to do. My goal here was to try to make this using basically trash or materials I have around the house, and I've almost exhausted all of those materials. Unfortunately, my personality includes a little bit of Judy Hopps.
I don't know when to quit.
I'm basically taking it back down to the masking tape skeleton. My irritation has now surpassed 9,000, so I'm amputating. I said I was gonna step away, but what I really meant was I'm gonna destroy it. I have taken it back to about as far as I can without just completely starting over. But honestly, that's kind of what I'm doing. And I've given up on the idea that this is going to be made completely out of recycled materials. The fact that I basically created the base from that is good enough for me. But I have went ahead and caved and purchased some foam clay and some armature wire to sort of just help get this looking a little bit better. I also discovered these foam tubes that we have. I figured I might as well just cut the freaking tail off and remake it with this because it's a little bit more uniform and it's not all hodgepodge together. So I'm gonna use this to remake the tail, and then I'm going to use all of the foam clay to sort of rebuild the other parts and just get them to look smooth and nice. And then perhaps I can sleep my full 4.5 hours tonight. At this point, I took a much needed break from working on the facehugger and got started on Rain's outfit. The first order of business was getting started on Rain's t-shirt. So this is your classic Weyland Yutani shirt, but not only does it have the name of the company, it also sports the name of the colony that Rain lives in, Jackson Star Mining Colony, on LV-410. After rendering out a logo that looked halfway decent, I decided to put this through my Cricut machine and create a stencil that I could then paint onto for my shirt. When you make a stencil, you have to think about both the positive and the negative space, and unfortunately my last 3 brain cells could not process this information. I didn't really find a solution, but I did find a workaround, and I got there. And that's what matters. Next, it was time to create a very temporary solution to imitating these alien stompers. Unfortunately for me, I was unaware there was actually a limited run of these shoes and that I could have owned a pair, but alas, I was able to create a temporary version of them by applying some 651 vinyl with a little heat and then using some Velcro for the straps. I did run out of the silver vinyl, so I then had to use black, which forced me to later on have to paint over it with silver, but again, not a big deal. I then very carefully cut around all of the parts with an X-Acto to get a somewhat clean finished look. And that's what they look like so far. And here's me opening up the foam clay for the first time, realizing that the cheaper color that I bought was cheaper for a reason. I feel like brown was the wrong color to get. Oh my god. As you know, initially my plan completely tanked, and I had to basically deconstruct most of my baby Xeno and kind of start over. Since then, I have attached a different kind of foam tail and also started using foam clay to actually form the body. My plan for pretty much the entire rest of the day is to completely cover this in foam clay so that hopefully I can start painting. At this point, shoes are done, shirt is done, I acquired pants, and then obviously I have to finish Jeremy. I've named him Jeremy. So yeah. Let's get to work. Once I got the body built out, I started working on the tail and quickly realized that I simply could not post much of that footage because of its highly suggestive nature. Absolutely no shade to the people hustling on OnlyFans, but the OF that I ascribe to stands for overwhelming fears on account of my crippling anxiety. So yeah, you won't see much tail content here. Also, if you've watched the Alien movies, you know about the undercarriage anatomy, and I will also not be showing you the making of that. I am not getting flagged by YouTube, okay? You can use your imagination, or you can look up pictures online. To close it all out, I quickly constructed both a pulse gun and a communication device from cardboard, and with that being said, let's see the finished look. enjoyed that extremely low budget production that is in no way, shape, or form associated with any of the individuals or entities that created the original Alien movies. So this is the part of the video where I like to do a little bit of constructive and deconstructive criticism on my projects. All in all, I think this was a very successful creation, but I did obviously have a lot of bumps in the road and things that I struggled with. In terms of the facehugger, if I could go back in time, I would probably tell myself not to worry so much about creating it all out of recycled materials, but instead to use those materials in addition to one or two splurges on a craft item that would make the process a lot easier on me. Because of the nature of some of the materials I used, it's really difficult to articulate the fingers and the tail, which was a really big bummer to me. And so I think in the future, I may go back and possibly remake those so that I can pose them and move them a little bit more how I would like to. The shirt, also somewhat a success. I used fabric softener and acrylic paint to sort of create my own fabric medium, and it did hold up in the wash pretty well, but it's a little bit stiff and it is cracking pretty badly. So in the future, I think that I will opt for some actual fabric medium, but I still really like this shirt and I'm happy that I was able to create something that I can use practically, because I can't carry the face hugger everywhere, but I can wear the shirt out. All the little accessories, the communication device, the armband, the shoes, the gun, those were very like hasty things that I made, and I think that the shoes look really cool, but because they were shoes that I actually own and I didn't want to ruin them, I had to use like temporary ways of altering them, and so they look a little clunky and a little odd, but overall, I mean, it gave the effect that I needed. If I could do it all again, I would probably do it with more money, but this was kind of an exhausting project, so my next couple of videos will probably be a little bit more chilled out and laid back. I really enjoyed this process of creating Rain Carradine, and I hope you did too, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Ring the bells of Notre Dame.
This is why you're getting paid $0.
Pay me $1.
But what's like a good scream? Is it like,
Don't look at my feet.
he's a good boy.